There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. There's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do.
Until we get water tenders or the water system restored, we're doing the best we can with getting back $1 million.
Tell me what the current situation is for you and just what the last 24 hours have been like.
Yeah, it's been so insane. I mean, some people know this, but I grew up in Pacific Palisades, in the Palisades Village. All of our my husband and I are both from that area, the Palisades, Santa Monica. Everyone we know over there has now been evacuated. And my husband's 2 cousins just lost their homes last night. His aunt's house, right now we just found out, is on fire. My in-laws had to evacuate their house, so we couldn't go there last night. So that's like one half of my life. And the other half is here in the kind of Pasadena, Altadena area. I live sort of on the border. And this whole place is now on fire. I keep getting texts all day of our friends, my children's classmates. Their homes are right now on fire. And Pasadena is not Palisades. It's not billionaires and celebrities. This is like families who have been here for 30, 40 years, and these beautiful old craftsmen. And it's actually heartbreaking. I literally keep getting text messages like, oh, this family's house, they're on fire now. We have a friend who live just up the street from me. She's a widow. They have 10 children. Her son just texted me. Their house is now on fire. This is Altadena. I just came home to grab some toilet paper and some of my daughter's clothes that she didn't bring. And I'm just looking outside and the light is orange and you can just hear this is my video. We took this morning. My husband took this morning and just black smoke pouring down. I don't know what's going to happen tonight. My house seems to be, maybe it's okay, but you can't really breathe. So we're not going to stay here tonight. But it's just, I can't even tell you the devastation. Like all of the Palisades where I grew up is basically burned to the ground.
Now, I've got to ask you, and by the way, thank God you're okay, and please let me know online or offline if there's anything that people can do to help once things get set up. I know that's usually something that takes a little bit of time to get going, but I've got to ask you as well about some of these questions that people have come up with. I mean, these wildfires, I just spoke with someone before the show, and I'll ask you as well. I mean, did you see wildfires like this in all these years that you've been talking about the families were living there?
Not in this area. I've only lived here like 7 or 8 years, but I grew up on the west side. And so every few years, Malibu burns down. And actually, my mother, my mother lived in Malibu for 20 years. She just sold her house a few months ago and left for a red state. And I just got a text an hour ago, her house in Malibu is now gone. That's totally burned down. So her timing, these boomers have great timing, right? So every few years, every 5 years, Malibu would burn down. It was periodical, but the Pacific Palisades has never burned down. I can't even believe that a fire that started up in the Palisades Highlands, which is pretty far up the mountains, got down to the ocean and burned all of Malibu. I mean, these classic Palisades Malibu restaurants, Gladstone's, which the former mayor Richard Riordan owns, the Real Inn, if you've ever been to the west side, these are just, Palisades High School, which is like this West Side institution, public high school. A lot of my friends went there, is no more. And so it would happen periodically, but I've never seen it here in Pasadena. I don't think this area has ever burned like this. And especially the Palisades Village, that has never burned. This is unprecedented.
And so one of the questions I think that is on a lot of people's minds, certainly with President Trump, he's getting into the politics of it. He says basically squarely putting this on the shoulders of Gavin Newsom, saying, look, this is something that we've talked about again and again and again, the water management, the fire hydrants, the timber management, the wildfire management, all of these things could be done. And yet you guys are putting either environmental concerns or other concerns, ahead of actually just taking care of the state. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. They won't clear the brush, apparently, because of the environmental activists. But meanwhile, these mountains, these hillsides in Santa Monica and above Altadena, they're full of like homeless camps. And a lot of times this is how the fires start, where like a cooking stove goes wrong with the wind. or someone's, lights their drops their crack pipe. I mean, this is often arson because these people are just up here in the hills and no one does anything about it. But the other thing that's really shocking to me is that, we were hearing about there's no water in the fire hydrants in Pacific Palisades, even though those people pay, $100,000 a year in property tax. But there's also no water here. Someone told me this morning that a firefighter a few blocks from me, they had to break open a fire hydrant in Altadena, and there was no water. And I did witness fires, houses fully engulfed with water going on the fires, but most of it is neighbors and their hoses. I am not seeing like a lot of like water coming down on these homes. And so yes, our government is so ridiculous. It really does feel like we're abandoned. I mean, the fire department's doing the best they can. I see a lot of a million out of town fire trucks went by me today, but it does feel like we're alone.
And this is what I don't understand. What about military? Have you seen the National Guard coming out, anything like that?
No, just tons of cops. I just talked to a sheriff. They have all the streets blocked off near me. And I asked them, I'm trying to find out from my friends who they fled for San Diego, the ones with 10 kids. And I'm trying to find out, is their house on fire? And he said, yeah, a lot of houses up there are in flames, but there's not really a lot of information. There's definitely no military here yet. And I'm not seeing any water drops. Now, maybe there's water drops up on the hills right now. I was not seeing any, but there is an enormous police presence. So I think that like people are okay. Like I think people have gotten out. They've been smart. They're keeping people away from these areas. But I mean, my son is out of a job. He works at the local hardware store. It burned down this morning. I picked him up there last night. He was at work, selling flashlights and batteries to people. And now he has no more job. And this is a local mom and pop, and just all the mom and pop stores up and down Lake Avenue are gone. It's honestly like, I don't even know when we'll go back to school. I don't know. People don't have homes. Like, it's just wild. It's just, yeah, I don't even have words.